every person in front of me while I was on stage was singing along with me and moving their hands like in sync. I was like, this is exactly what I've been dreaming of literally my entire life. And that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I'm doing this.
Okay, this is episode number 3 of the Media Mayhem Podcast, and I'm always reaching out to local Chicago people doing their thing, and Senite is no different. So welcome, thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Senite. I'm Eritrean American from uptown Chicago. I am a musician, artist, singer, songwriter, producer. And anti-capital. No, I'm just kidding. But I love Chicago. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I've been in the game or in the music industry seriously for about like 2-ish years, less than 2 maybe.
I'm so happy you're here today, and you're somebody that I not only got recommended multiple times to interview, but once I took a look at your stuff, I was immediately hooked. And I think that says a lot, not only about being in Chicago and making headways through word of mouth. Like, I think that is so huge and so important. So congratulations on all of that. But so basically what happened was I got recommended from some friends to interview, and then, I did some research and I came across a picture of you with Choo Choo Beats and Matt Vega. And there was almost something that was like, all right, it's fate. I have to do it now. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
And then this past Thursday, I was photographing an event that you were speaking at.
Yes.
I knew you were going to be there, and I was just like, I'm going to hold off and surprise because it'll be cool.
That was crazy.
And it was surprising, but I'm not a super spiritual or superstitious person, but sometimes things just feel right.
Yeah.
And those were telltale signs for me that I have to interview you, and obviously me just wanting to do it. But for you as a musician, I'm curious if there was ever just that sort of inherent push that you knew, like, oh, I have to take music seriously.
Yeah.
So was there ever a moment like that for you?
For sure. I mean, so I went to this nonprofit music school called People's Music School since I was like 4 years old, and my siblings went there. My older siblings were there, so it was almost like I grew up there before I was able to actually become a student. I did violin, piano, guitar, and voice, and that was literally like consistently for many, many, many years of my life. And so naturally, obviously, being in those like learning spaces, like music is serious. Music is like, it's not something that you could just pick up and do. It's more of like, this is something that you may not know you're talented in. So like finding that like way or that path of being like, this is something I can do. So when I was in high school, I was writing my own music, or I was really writing poetry for years before that. But my poetry, I was like, well, I can play an instrument and I can easily segue this into songwriting and music. And I was like a huge fan of Frank Ocean, and I was like, how do I give people this feeling that Frank Ocean gives, like after Channel Orange album, or after even the Blonde album? I think that was like 2016. And I started this trio with 2 of my friends, this vocal trio. We were writing our own music, composing everything. I was like, I took it so serious. And you can ask my very good friend Mia, she was in that trio. Like I was hard about it. I was like, we are performing here. We opened for, I don't know if you know this band, Humphreys McGee, but
yes,
so we opened for them in like, I don't even remember what year. I want to say like 2016 or 2015. And I was like, this is serious. Like we are at this super fire venue. It was like almost sold out. They were on tour. And I was like, I don't even remember how old I was. And I was young. I was really young. And I was like, this is the moment where I'm like, I need to do this for the rest of my life. And then I kind of stumbled into this group called Semi. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it was this smaller group of Chicago artists, all forms of artistry. So like painting, rapping, writing, singing, videography, photography, literally every form of art all in one group called Semi. And we were all making our own music. We were all recording our own music. I was literally at my friend Sebastian's crib, literally nonstop. Like they had it was like the home base. It was like the headquarters of Semi. And we were always at their crib. And it was great. Like I loved it so much. And then once COVID hit, it was really hard to be around each other. And then this is when I was like, this is my perfect timing to venture as an independent artist completely alone. Semi still in my heart and always with me. But I was like, let me finally make this dream come true where I know I can do everything on my own. And years before that, I had this idea of like, what if I created this series of music, and we can talk about that later. But I was like, how do I execute that during quarantine where I have all the time in the world to do that? And then that was when I was like, honestly, this is the perfect time for me to do it. And there's no reason for me not to. And I'm very, very ambitious. And I'm also an Aries, so that's another thing. I'm also a Virgo rising. So, okay, I don't know if you know about your astrology, but that stuff is really important to me because if anyone really knows that, it's like they play really big parts in my like motivation and like how when I have a dream or a goal, I will literally do anything and everything I can to execute it. And I'm still there. I'm a perfectionist at times, but I'm very good at what I do, and I'm very happy and confident for like how far I've come for sure. Sorry, that was a really long answer, but
no, and that's exactly what I want. And yeah. It's interesting that, you know, I had no idea that you had such an established sort of background in music, and opening for Humphreys McGee is actually somebody I'm only familiar with because of Jeff, who loves them.
Really?
So if you haven't told him that,
he's going to be like, what?
You should tell him that.
Okay.
He'll find out.
Yeah.
No, I think that's huge, and is, you know, I had no idea, but at the same time, there was something where I listened to your music and I thought, this sounds like someone who is a decade past in terms of experience of what I am listening to right now. And to hear that you came from a group as well shows that you already have the, you know, the collaborative skills under your belt. And I think that's a hugely important thing too. And seeing you work with other talented creators in the city is always great to see. Yeah. Even though I did very much enjoy your self-produced music video.
Thank you.
I thought that was great.
Thank you.
But, you know, Chicago, like you brought up, these collectives is a place where we've seen communal support push people above, you know, where I think they would be independently. And I think, you know, we've seen that with the Hurt Everybody Collective, Pivot Gang, even somebody like Chief Keef and the Glory Boys, like way back then, put other people on the map through communal support.
100%.
And I think with that too is we also saw just a fusion of styles, like with Donnie Trumpet and Social Experiments, things that we, at least myself as a music listener, I was like, I am so excited to hear Chance and all these other local artists rapping on these almost avant-garde jazz rap beats. It creates this whole new style. And
100%.
Chicago's music is expansive in not only scope, but I think cultural impact as well. And we've seen that time and time again.
Nonstop.
And these are all groups that past decade. You know? I'm not even going back.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So with that being said, is there someone in Chicago or a group, anything, a person that you've been itching to collaborate with? And because it sounds like you have the collaborative vision of you don't work with somebody just to work with them. Yeah. You have a vision for that. Do you have anyone in mind?
Do I have anyone in mind? I don't have just one person at all. I think one of the craziest things about coming to this point in my career is I'm meeting these people that I've never dreamed of meeting in my whole life, and like people that I like am literally like learning from by the book. A dream collab for sure would be No Name, like without a doubt. I love them so much. Like they're like I could go on and on and on about No Name. A good friend now, Jamila Woods, somebody that now I'm like I can really call my like friend in this, and which is so cool. Also another good friend, The Mind, which that in itself is like crazy. Like we already started working together, and so it's like so cool to be in these spaces with these people that I literally was like, I know every word to your whole portfolio. Like that's crazy, you know, or like that album that you made, and like that era of like big Chicago finally making its way out in like from like 2010 to like I don't even remember what year. That whole era was like a big part of my like evolution as an artist, where I was like, this is something that I can do, and I can be the newest of it, you know, not so much copy paste, but more like, this is inspiring. Now, how can I take this with me and change the game the same way they did, type of thing. But No Name, definitely. Big, huge goal to have.
No Name's been one of my favorite Chicago artists probably since like 2016,
really?
and they've only gotten more impressive, not only in their artistic work, but everything else they do too. The book club, are you familiar
yes,
with their book club? I love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, they're fine.
And to see where that's gone too is just crazy. Insanely inspiring.
Yeah.
So shout out No Name.
Shout out No Name.
And work with Senite.
Yeah, come on.
They're right here, come on. But you know, to hear that you have these working professionals, people who've proven themselves in their own way and have probably gone through a lot of the experiences you've gone through as an artist, to see them as not only contemporaries with you, but friends as well, is such an important bond to hold on to. And I can tell that's something that you are obviously very aware of.
Yeah.
And, you know, with that too, with those important friends and relationships comes experiences and nuance that I don't think you otherwise would have. And that's something for me of having the guidance of other people has really helped me a lot in ensuring, you know, anxieties I might have, people helping, you know, subside those a little bit. But I'm curious if there is like advice or insight that you've gotten from these people that has really stuck with you. Because I know you've been working with a lot of people recently, so it feels like there might be some recent advice or from way back. Like,
I think in this, I honestly haven't even been, like, there's different forms of like, what is a long time in Chicago, right? Like 2 months could be really long or it could be really short, you know? But being in this since like really 2020, honestly, like I have like had so many run-ins with so many people, and good and bad, you know, like I've definitely had my fair share of like bad parts of the industry. And the reason why I say like Jamila Woods is like a really big part of my comfortability now, and how like I can really call her a friend of mine, it's because like I went to her really honestly genuinely looking for advice, because I was like, you know, how do I navigate myself as a female artist in this very male dominated industry, let alone in Chicago being its own little bubble, and like trying to like, you can be super famous in Chicago, but you can go to New York and they'll be like, who are you? You know? So in that way, it was like, how do I navigate where to go and how to keep my head straight? And something that she said that's really, really stuck with me was knowing that it's mine, you know? And since then, I've literally just been like keeping that with me, you know, being grouped with all these really great artists that are actually my homies, my dogs. Like, these are literally like my brothers, you know? It's great. But again, I'm like, you know, there's not many female artists in this, let alone non-binary, let alone non-man. So being in these spaces where, you know, I'm the minority already is something that I had struggled with, but learning from someone that I literally have looked up to as a female artist, and saying like, this is mine, like where I get to be able to put my head on straight is really important for me. Like that really, really stuck. It was one short conversation, and like that really stuck with me. And I've just been using that and running with it for literally since we've had that conversation. But that's a really big thing for me, sure.
Yeah, and you know, it sometimes can be just those short quips of conversations that, you know, they might not remember it, but it sounds like now that you guys are friends, she obviously did remember it.
Yeah, I hope so.
So it worked out, but you know, those pieces of advice, especially from somebody that you look up to, can be so transformative.
Oh yeah.
And you know, having what the advice that she gave you of, it's yours, it's your own. You know, to me, I've experienced that time and time again of like, once I started pushing my content out to more of like an audience of like, it's not about what they want, it's about what I want to give.
Absolutely.
And it's been a very long road with that lesson. And something that does sound like it was also inherently yours is, you mentioned earlier you wanted to come back to it, a series of songs. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
For sure. So I think in like 2014 or maybe 2015, I had this epiphany. Like I literally was like in my bed and I was like, hold on. I know exactly how I can make my way as an artist perfectly. Like, this is the perfect segue of becoming Senite as an artist. This is before any type of collective came into play, and it was just this idea, and I was like, I don't know when I'll execute it, but I know I will. And I told my homie, my literal blood, my ride or die, Isaac, and we were just having this normal conversation, and I was like, bro, I had this idea about music, like, just bear with me. And like, we're the type of people to talk for hours and just be like, we don't know what we're talking about, but we're okay. And I was like, what if I created this house, this home that was music, and the first time you hear me as Senite, an artist, was in every room of this home of my music. And then he was like, what? Okay. And I'm like, no, like seriously, like the guest room, like you go into someone's house, you've never been in their house before, and you're just learning the space and you're just getting comfortable. You don't want to be too comfortable yet because you don't know how long you're going to be there for. And then I made the guest room EP in the perspective of a guest in someone's home. So like there were almost never, I don't think there's one song that I say like something about myself, but it was like, there's a song called 17, which he's actually on. It was like, sometimes I think about the kids that are turning 17. Love is on your mind, you know, like you used to feel so medicated, you know, like all these things, or not used to feel so, I don't even know my lyrics, what the fuck, but like that whole thing. But specifically, I wanted to make it in a different perspective where it was like me, you know, like naturally if someone's sleeping in your place, right? You're like, oh, do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? This way is the bathroom if you need it. And in that, I was like, this is the perfect way I can make this project. And then for the living room, I was like, now you're comfortable, right? Like now you're changed. You've changed out of your airplane clothes. You're finally comfortable in this house, this home. And then you're able to talk and have these conversations that are like intimate and really like private and personal and emotional on this couch, you know, like now that you're comfortable in this living room. And then the hallway, which is my more recent project, was like the segue into my room, which is the most personal part of my home, right? And now in between the hallway and my room, which is hopefully the last part of the series, the last part of the series, there are just like little singles. So like when you're walking down the hallway, you see little rooms here and there, or like little pictures or images against the wall, usually family photos or whatever. But this time it's like, you know, songs that are really personal to me, that are honestly leading into this segue of my very personal, emotional project that is in my room. So that whole series of songs is what came about. Yes. Wow. Sorry, that's really heavy.
No,
sorry.
Don't apologize for answering with a good response, because that was amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people would be quick to be like, oh, that's a cool gimmick, but it's not at all. It's so much bigger than that. It takes something seemingly arbitrary and expands upon it, and more importantly, makes it your own.
Yeah.
And you know, that's not something that I put together when listening to your work, but now hearing it and rethinking about specifically the perspective and the point of view part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously I'm not telling you things that you don't already know, but I think it really adds this element to it that makes the listener so much more involved of saying you. And it's just those little seemingly arbitrary details that making that switch can just change a million things. And you clearly did that. And you know, you saying, oh, I don't know lyrics to my own songs, but I was going through some of your work, and you know, it seems that a very common theme throughout all of it is these struggles with depression and anxiety, and sort of recognizing the very real stigma that is mental health. And
absolutely.
From the song The Same, you have depression wasn't moving faster than I asked it to. On 17, you say, I think I'm putting myself last, just how I used to be, making someone think my issues mean nothing more to me. And I really like that. And you also tweeted too, a lot of people don't realize the anxiety in this music shit, which is also true. Yeah, so, literally. You know, in general, isolating anxiety for a piece seems to, like I said, blanket your work a bit, but it's not, it doesn't suffocate any of it. It feels very fleeting and flows in a very natural way, which is, you know, how I think anxiety and depression is experienced by many, myself included, of being that it's never predictable, but always felt.
100%.
It's always there.
Yeah.
And being open and honest about struggles with mental health, I think is not only an incredibly brave thing to do, but, you know, I view it as important.
Yeah.
I think to live your truth and show others also that might be struggling as well, that it's okay.
Yeah.
And we deal with it.
100%.
We live with it.
Yeah.
And we live and we prosper. And I'm wondering how music for you has acted as a way to help, you know, not only navigate these things that you live with, but give you a grander perspective on it. Because I know it can be anxious to make music, but you know, I think the turn of that is getting something so much better out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you said like the feeling of it, you know, because when I first started this, I was an anxious person, but I was not as anxious as I have become, you know, being in these like spaces and shows and studio sessions and interviews and all these things, like anxiety naturally takes like a huge toll on me. And my friend Kai and I used to talk about this all the time, about how literally like we have no idea what we're doing, you know, we're just these younger people in this Chicago city, like where everything is just big, you know, everything is bigger than it is, and then naturally anxiety makes everything 10 times bigger, and it just kind of rolls, and it literally just it's not easy, you know. And in writing this music, when Medicated got a lot of traction, a lot of people were like messaging me from like different countries, different cities, and they were like, oh, this song from this project really, I resonated with this one really well. Or like somebody was like, this song saved me. I was like, no, please don't say that. Because it was like, no, like that's like, it's such a beautiful thing where I'm just like, no. Like I know that feeling of being like, this music is saving me because I feel what this person is saying. And that's why I do what I do. You know, I naturally, as an artist, sometimes I make music selfishly, where I'm like, this is something that I want to do for myself, where I'm like, I just got out of this really hard situation and I want to do this to make myself feel better. But then little do I know, someone in freaking Brazil is like going through the same thing and hears this song and is like, whoa, finally, you know? And with anxiety, it's not, I can't tell you, you know, oh yeah, just listen to my music, you're good. Like that, like what the fuck?
That's the
like,
cure.
No, yeah, that's the cure. Just listen to Senite, you know,
That'd
whatever.
be convenient.
No, I mean, that will help the stream. I'm just kidding. But one of the things about it is knowing that you're not the only one that is going through it. And I was just at a show last night, and I was like, everyone was like, oh, we never see you outside. I was like, yeah, I'm socially anxious. Like, I'm not trying to be outside right now, you know? And like, it was so funny because everyone was like, yeah, same. I was like, thank you. Finally, you know, this is not, like, making it a normalized conversation is absolutely okay. You know, people go through several forms of anxiety, several forms of depression, several forms of different mental health disorders or illnesses or chemical imbalances in your brain. And there are all these things that make it feel so not normal to talk about it. But in every way, people have some type of resonation to it. And, you know, like in the same, I was like, yeah, depression wasn't moving faster than I asked it to. Like literally you would think, my dream is coming true, so why am I sad? But like it's not as easy as people think. Or, you know, again, in like 17, these high school kids are going through like these insane emotional tolls that they have no idea how to navigate. And it's like, well, honestly, this is very normal for you, and in every way, it's your time. You go at your own pace, and you somehow find comfortability in this, and it's cool. So yeah, honestly, like I can't sit here and tell you I'm not anxious right now, or I can't sit here and tell you that I am not going to go home and cry. I might not, but like, you know what I'm saying? There are all these things where it's very normal to feel the way that you do. But yeah, I'm really glad I'm able to like set the table a little bit where like you can comfortably feel that with me, for sure.
Absolutely, and it's great to hear that somebody had, it seems, a reaction to your music, almost like how Frank Ocean's music seemed to inspire you early on. And I think it's important to sort of look at those with perspective of I get lost in the things I do and I'm like, oh, that was cool. All right, moving on to the next thing.
Right.
But it seems like you definitely have a really good head on appreciating things and taking account of all of the good things happening, not only to you, but the people who listen to you too, and sort of making that further connection. Within that, you did say that, you know, sometimes you feel like you're making music selfishly. Is there any other way?
Honestly, yeah, there are. I'm sure there are definitely other ways, you know? Like when I wrote The Guest Room, I was very intentional with my writing, but I was like, I want to say you know? I want to be like, love's on my mind. I want to be like, you know, like it was like, why am I making this about other people? And that was where I felt like I was being selfless. Like I was like, this is not about me, you know? But in that way, I was like, no, this is the moment where I can both be selfish and selfless, where I'm still doing it for myself in literally welcoming you into my home, and then doing it for you as a listener, where you're somehow getting accustomed to this place or this space for me. But I do think there are other ways. You know, I feel like a lot of people get lost in this when they fall into the pressure of making music. And I think once I started getting love, I was falling into this pressure where people were like, make more songs like Love Is On Your Mind. I was like, no, like I'm not doing that again, no. But then, or like when people are like, make more songs like Billionaire, I'm like, maybe, you know, like there are these things where I can naturally fall into this pressure and then do it because other people are saying it. And that's where it can become selfless, where it's maybe not positively selfless, but more like I'm doing it because other people are telling me to. And so I do think there are other ways for sure. It's just a matter of remembering who you are and where you're at and what your goals are, for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, something for me that I've noticed kind of just along my career path as an interviewer is there's always moments along the line where it feels like I'm like, oh, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. Like I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I know we sort of went over like your early stages, but I'm curious recently if there has been a sort of aha moment for you where you're like, it all clicks, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know you had the one where you're like, this is how my career is going.
Yeah.
But is there anything like maybe performing on stage or something like that where you're like, this is it?
Yeah. It was my first show as Senite, my first show ever. I was performing at this festival. It was not even that long ago. It was like last August in 2021.
Wow.
That was really recent.
Oh
I know,
Lord.
crazy. So actually I was like hit up by my friend Aspen, my friend now, but was a stranger to me at the time. And she was like, would you be interested in doing this festival I'm throwing called We Outside? Like, would you want to do this? I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, it'll be my first time. She sends me this track list. I've never met or heard of any of these people on this list before. We make a group chat and then we all send our music and I'm like, oh shit, like everyone here is fire, you know? And then when I go to this show, I invited like as many friends as I could. And in my mind, I invited like 3 people, like in my mind. But then the amount of people that showed up and were supporting me, I was like, hold up, like this is not what I was expecting. And I go up on stage and this is like the very first time of me performing my songs like ever. Obviously because throughout COVID was when I was doing everything. And I'm performing, and once Medicated, I performed Medicated for the first time. Literally, I think almost every person like that was like in front of me while I was on stage was singing along with me. And I was like, this is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life, where people knew the words to my music. And everyone was like standing and they're all crowded in front of the stage and moving their hands like in sync. I was like, this is exactly what I've been dreaming of literally my entire life. And that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Like, there's no way I'm coming out. And literally after that, I was having like consistent shows. And I don't know how, I mean, obviously I dropped The Hallway in between then, but immediately then I feel like my whole career just skyrocketed. I was like in my home making all these projects, and then randomly over one summer, I just like completely went crazy. But that was the moment. It was crazy. Shout out Aspen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So this is a question I ask with every interviewee I have on here. And you know, it's something where I see kind of multimedia as an interdisciplinary thing. Like you pick up from one thing, like you watch a film, you get inspired, and you carry it into your music. And sort of, I always look at things as like there's something to learn and apply from everything. It may not seem like it's that way, but it's there. And you know, for me, that comes from everywhere from the sort of weird narrative cohesion of like FX's Atlanta, all the way to the DIY interviews that Nardwuar does. Like it's everywhere. It's all of it. And those are actually two fairly like applicable ones to me, but it goes beyond that, like video games and things like that. And I'm just sort of curious, for you, do you find yourself being inspired by pieces of media outside of music? And like what kind of effect do you think that has for you?
Honestly, like I only make music. Like I don't even know how else. Like so my twin sister, she's like really into like film and movies and documentaries and stuff. Never was really my thing. I also have ADHD, so I can't sit and just watch something for a long period of time. As intrigued as I can be, I just can't do it. And I also didn't really grow up in a space or a place where, you know, we would, like my dad or my mom would like sit us down and be like, this is going to change your life, you know? It was more of like who I saw and who I was around. So not so much a form of media, but really just a form of like I guess, I don't know, I don't want to say status, but like I was around these really inspiring artists and creatives. Being at the People's Music School, there was like a lot of opportunities that kind of just came about, I guess. And I performed at House of Blues when I was 9, opening for the Roots. It was crazy. And I remember we were like sharing a green room, I think, or we like went to introduce ourselves. And there's like Questlove and like the whole gang like sitting there. And I remember like after we performed, well, first off, it was almost sold out because we were like, oh, this is we're clearly opening for some big guys here, you know. And watching their set, I was like, whoa, like this is super inspiring. And then I saw Georgia Smith live in Amalu in like 2017, and I was like, wow, this is so inspiring to know that like both of not just their stories, but just people, really genuinely good people, and able to like execute this beautiful thing that is like not just their fandom, but like people that appreciate good music. In the same way, I went to like Motown, like the museum in Detroit, and I was like, whoa, like this is something that I really want to be in a museum. Like I'm like saving clothes that I could easily sell for like hundreds of dollars, because I'm like, this will be in a museum, you know? And in that, it's really more of just my mentality or my mindset. When it comes to like in these spaces, I'm very much like an appreciative person where I'm like, whoa, let me ground myself and realize and be aware of the space that I'm in and who's in this space, or who I just met and how important they're going to be in my life, or how important this one conversation from months ago is going to be in my career for the rest of my life. You know, I've never been really a person to sit down and watch films or movies. I watch documentaries here and there. You know, I know the whole shebang.
You don't gotta explain it. I'm not gonna be offended if you don't like it.
For sure. But you know, in that, I've definitely just been appreciative of the people in the spaces that I'm in, let alone just like the people that I meet. For sure, they're super inspiring. And
it sounds like that's sort of had an impact on who you've become, obviously, and who you continue to become. And you know, something I heard you talk about this past week when you were speaking at St. Josephinum was the importance of visualizing things and manifesting, and sort of, you know, visualizing yourself at a spot and seeing the work that you have to put ahead. And so with that being said, you know, hearing that your first performance was in August of 2021. What are you visualizing for this next year?
That I like now I'm starting to realize, like, damn, that was really not that long ago. I'm huge on manifesting. Like I'm very, very, like on New Year's night, the night, like 20 minutes before, I was like sitting in the corner writing in my notebook, like the things I'm manifesting for the year. And I mean, my goals have kind of stayed in the same range for many, many years. Like Obviously, I want to be at Summer Smash, Pitchfork, Lollapalooza, Afropunk, and even not just like in these like well-known festivals, but also just like performing. I want to open for No Name at a certain point, open for John Doe, open for, I'm not sure if you know who Lizzie McAlpine is, but she's like this like indie artist. She's like really low-key, it's really random, but I really love her music. Or like opening for certain people and then potentially headlining and then having other people open for me. I obviously, like, another collab that I failed to mention was like Saba or working with anyone in Pivot Gang, which is so funny because like it's so interesting to be in this music industry because it's so small. Because I'm like we're all right next to each other, like we don't realize how close we are. But I've definitely just been manifesting, not just performing with them, but being in a space with them. Like I will just like sit there and just like download everything in my brain and be like, this is happening right now. But definitely those are some things that I'm looking forward to, but also just manifesting for sure.
Well, I'm definitely manifesting a great rest of the year for you. And even outside of that, if I were to have stock in the industry, I'd put a lot of it into you right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But that's kind of all I have today. I wanted to thank you for being here, doing this with me.
For sure.
And is there anything else you want to plug? Anything like, yo, I got a new blah, 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 it's here, it's there, anything like that?
Sure. I have a single that just came out called The Same. You can stream my music, SENITE, everywhere. I have a show June 22nd at Lincoln Hall, a show at June 25th at the Hideout, many more singles coming, many more collabs coming, many more shows coming. Everything I'm manifesting is coming true. So stay true to yourself and stay cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.